And now there's a couple other commands. We could do sudo smb mount, to mount a share, and without having to use the -t or specify, you would just say, 2 // and this time we'll try the host name. Either one, IP or the host name, if it's mapped out. And again, I want to map, I want to map it, or I want to connect to the share, the name of the share on that server. And in this case, my local folder is what I would map it to. Again, same password, it'll authenticate, and when I put that in, it'll mount it. Okay, and again, there's that folder. And again, were I to bring up my mount commands, notice, here it is mounted by hostname. Alright, so again, sudo and umount and mount me. Alright, so far we've looked at 3 different ways to do this: via sys, via smbfs, and via samba mount. Now there's one more client-side mounting tool that you can use called Samba Client, and it actually looks kind of like FTP. It's a little bit different from the others. SMBCLIENT, and in this case the syntax would be similar. You'd say what you want to mount, so I could use the hostname or the IP 207.13.13, the share that I want to connect to, and then the local folder that I want to use when I mount it in this case. And notice you have a kind of a prompt here, and I can ls, and that would be the contents of the folder there. And just like FTP, I can put in a question mark, and there's mget, and get and put and input, things like that. So very, very similar to FTP. And I'm going to go ahead and quit and exit out of this now. All right, so 4 tools that we've looked at from the Linux side. So we're going to look at using some of these commands to connect to Windows machines. The first one I'm going to try is a Windows XP professional machine. And I'm going to use sudo mount the -t option, sys to specify the common internet file system, 2 // 192.168.1.207.13, the IP address, and I believe it is 11. And the host name of this one's called TV, by the way. I use it as sort of a DVR. It's just an old box, but I haven't set up DNS at this point for for Ubuntu, and I haven't added the mapping to the host file, so I need to specify the IP. The share name I want to connect to is simply 300 for a 300 gigabyte data drive, and I'm going to connect it here to mount me. Now, unlike when I connect to, this would be all I would need if I were connecting to a remote server that was another Ubuntu Linux server via Samba. But if it's Windows, I need to specify an additional option, and that's username. And in this case, this is the username that I would log into TV with, or into that machine. And then I need to specify a password. So with that additional option, and notice it will load the folder and mount it. And you can see, lots of cartoons and things here for the kids. And then, so sudo umount, and I'm just going to unmount the folder. And another thing I could do, there's a hidden share. So in Windows XP, that's easy to connect to. So I could say sudo and mount and -t and specify sys and 199.207.13.11, and I'll connect to the same shared hard drive or directory and mount it at the same mount point. Remember, unlike with another Linux Ubuntu machine, with Windows you need to specify the username option. So -o for option, username, who has permission to connect to the share, and then enter your password to authenticate. And once you authenticate, there you are, you're connected. Alright, so I'm going to unmount that. And that was Windows XP. Let me also do, sorry, I said I was going to do it. This is an administrative share. C with a postfix of the string operator, or a $sign, and kind of a neat little feature of Windows XP, maybe also a security vulnerability, but it'll take you right to the root drive. Windows, program files, everything. Even though it's not explicitly shared, it is implicitly shared by default in Windows XP Professional. And I believe Windows 7 kind of plugged that. It's not as easy to do that in Windows 7. But I'm going to go ahead and umount and mount me. And that was Windows XP Professional. So now let's take a look at Windows 7. I'm going to connect to a Windows 7 Ultimate machine. So sudo mount -t. Again, I'll specify sys. I'll use the same syntax, 192.168.13. And this time I want to get a different IP address. This is the address of the Windows 7 machine. And the shares I have, there's one I have on here called write. Alright, and I'm going to just mount it to mount me. Just like with Windows XP, with Windows 7, I need to specify an option. That's your username equals, and then whoever has permission on that machine to access that share. So here's a user account that should have permission. And I'm going to enter a password to authenticate. And once I enter the password to authenticate, it'll connect me to the share. And so this is what's in my Windows 7 share. Okay? And again, to dismount the Windows 7 share, sudo umount and mount me. Okay, and notice the little shortcut will disappear off the desktop. I'll connect to a different one instead of write. I'll connect to, there's another one out there shared called movies. Movies 1. And I'll use the same user account. And let me authenticate. And once I authenticate, here are all those movies in that folder. And again, if I were to look at this under the mount command, notice that it's actually mounted, that over across the network via this IP address. That entire folder on that partition is mounted to a local folder on my machine via sys, and it's read write. And you could specify other options, read only, read write. There's different options you could specify a bit. If I were to go into, let me go into mount me, and if I were to list the contents of it, again, it looks like that I'm looking at the contents of the local folder, but actually I'm looking at the contents of a network share mounted to that folder. Alright, I'm in Snow Leopard on an iMac, and I'm going to go use Finder, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make two folders, data 1 and data 2, and then I'm going to go over here to System Preferences, and I want to enable file sharing. And with file sharing enabled, I'm going to add those shares in. So here's data 1 and data 2. And I just want to go to Options and make sure that you share it over Samba, not AFP, because again we're going to be connecting to Samba shares. So I'm going to click Done. Done. Oh, and also notice, you'll either need to connect via your IP, or you can get your host name here too. In this case, I'm C Germany iMac. I'm on Ubuntu 10.10 again, and I'm just going to go to root and use the same folder that I created before, mount me, and I want to try to mount the Macintosh share now with sys. So sudo mount -t sys 199.207.207.13.10 was the IP address. The name of the folder we shared in Snow Leopard on the iMac was data 1. The name of the local folder I want to mount it to is mount me. And just like with Windows, you need to specify an option on a Macintosh. So username equals, in this case, I want to authenticate as C Germany. And then I'm going to enter my password now. And now if you